Welcome, everyone. Today we have a truly unsettling story for you, one that comes straight from the heart of Mexico City. It's a chilling tale of darkness. We're going to be talking about the disturbing life and the horrifying crimes of a figure known as the Cannibal Poet, José Luis Calva Zepeda. We've pieced this together from detailed accounts, trying to understand the fragmented story of a man whose life was, well, as disturbing as that name suggests. We want to trace his life, look at the tragedy, the ambition, the horrifying acts. But let's be clear, nothing excuses what he did. Prepare yourself. This is a story that really lingers long after it's told. So, José Luis Calva Zepeda. He was born June 20, 1969, in Mexico City. His early life, almost right from the start, was marked by just profound tragedy and abuse. His father died when José was only 2 years old. He was left with his mother, Elia, and 5 siblings. And his mother, she was described as severely abusive. Really harsh physical punishments. There's this one story when he was 6. After a really bad beating, he saw his mother smash his brand new toy truck. It was a rare thing for him, something he treasured, just destroyed it.
So what does this little kid do? He goes out, shines shoes, saves up his tiny earnings, and buys himself another one. His mother finds it, destroys that one too, and beats him again.
It's hard to overstate the impact of that. It's not just physical pain. It's the psychological destruction, the taking away of joy, of safety, that kind of early experience. It can really warp how someone sees the world, relationships, control. It often leads to deep-seated issues later on.
And it got worse. At age 7, Jose was raised by a 16-year-old friend of his brother. We don't know if that abuse continued, but its impact added to everything else. It's just undeniable, really.
Exactly. Sexual abuse on top of physical and emotional abuse at that age. It's devastating. It shatters your sense of self, of trust. It can lead to all sorts of complex psychological problems, distortions in empathy, attachment issues.
Then, at just 12 years old, his mother kicked him out,
Yep.
abandoned him. He dropped out of school, fell into a deep depression, started drinking heavily. You can sort of see the path forming, can't you?
You absolutely can. Being abandoned at 12, especially after years of abuse, it cements this feeling of worthlessness, of rejection, the drinking, dropping out. It's self-medication, an attempt to cope with overwhelming pain. It isolates you further.
To survive, he started working odd jobs. Ended up working as a clown, actually, alongside his brother-in-law, who was a magician. And it was around then he found something he seemed to love. Writing. Poetry, screenplays, novels. It was an outlet for him.
Yeah, writing can be powerful. A coping mechanism, maybe? A way to build a different world, one where he had control, perhaps. Or maybe it fed into his sense of grandiosity, trying to counter how inadequate he must have felt deep down.
Okay, fast forward to 1996. Jose gets married to a woman named Aide. They have 2 daughters pretty quickly. Looked like maybe things could stabilize, but nope. The marriage only lasted 2 years. His ex-wife moved to America with their daughters. And this apparently sent Jose spiraling. Deep depression again, severe alcohol and drug abuse. Just got worse. It was around this time he met another woman, Lydia Sanchez-Aldez, her testimony later. It painted a really chilling picture. She said Jose was deeply into hitchcraft, using herbs, cow tongues, things like that, trying to cast curses, especially on his ex-wife. She also mentioned he was obsessively clean, compulsive washing before and after sex, and more disturbingly, he was abusive, verbally, mentally, intensely jealous, controlling. If Lydia tried to leave, he'd threaten suicide. Classic manipulation.
That combination is very telling. The witchcraft. It speaks to wanting power, control over people he felt had abandoned him. It's like magical thinking to try and manipulate reality. The obsessive cleaning could be OCD traits, managing anxiety, maybe a feeling of being contaminated psychologically, and the suicide threats. Pure manipulation. It shows deep insecurity, inability to handle rejection, using emotional blackmail.
Meanwhile, he's pouring himself into his writing, dreaming of being this famous author. He'd make these little booklets of his poems and stories, staple them together himself, and hand them out on the street. Apparently, he'd brag constantly about how talented he was, one of the best writers ever. But, nothing ever really came of it. His writing career never took off.
That gap between his huge ego, this grandiose self-image, and his actual situation, that's significant. It often points towards narcissistic traits. It's a defense against feeling worthless, He needed to believe he was special. And that fragility, when challenged, can be dangerous.
So one day, he's out distributing these booklets, and he meets a woman named Alejandra. She's initially kind of charmed by his poetry, his passion. They start talking, and it comes out that Alejandra works at a pharmacy. This immediately gets Jose's attention in a bad way. See, he was heavily addicted to clonazepam. It's a strong medication, like Xanax or Valium, highly addictive. He saw an opportunity, maybe. Alejandra introduces Jose to her mother. And the mother, she instantly disliked him. just had a bad feeling. His stories didn't add up, claiming he made $200 a day as a playwright and singer, but he looked like he barely had 2 pesos to rub together. His clothes were worn out. Alejandra's mother also noticed how selfish he was. Every conversation had to be about him.
It's often the case, isn't it? The family, like the mother here, sees the red flags, the inconsistencies, the self-absorption. The person involved might miss it at first. And the clonazepam addiction, that would just lower his inhibitions, make him more reckless, more self-absorbed. It's a really volatile mix, a manipulative personality, delusions of grandeur, and drug dependence, very high risk.
Eventually, Alejandra started to see, too, the jealousy, the control, the lies. She was 32, a single mom with 2 kids, not his, and she needed out. She got a job offer in northern Mexico City. It was her chance for a fresh start. She decided to take it, but she never got that fresh start. On October 5, 2007, Alejandra didn't show up for her new job. Her mother immediately knew. She had this gut feeling Jose was involved. She even suspected he might have tied Alejandra up to stop her leaving. Then a neighbor confirmed it. Saw someone looking like Alejandra going into Jose's apartment on the day she vanished. That was enough. Alejandra's mother went straight to the police, told them where her daughter was last seen. So October 7th, 2 days later, the police go to Jose's apartment. He answers the door. Seems totally calm. He's actually eating dinner. Has a napkin tucked into his shirt, like nothing's wrong. The investigators explain they're looking for Alejandra. She was last seen entering his place. They start searching. They check the bedroom closet. And there, they find Alejandra's body, dismembered. Her right forearm and part of her right leg were missing. Just gone. Imagine finding that.
The act of dismemberment, it's profound. It's not just about hiding a body. It's about total dehumanization, ultimate control. Sometimes it's ritualistic. And missing parts, it immediately makes you ask, where are they? Why those parts?
They found out quickly. They moved to the kitchen, looked in the refrigerator, and there they were, Alejandra's missing arm and leg parts, stored, chillingly. But there was something else, a box of cornflakes, and inside the cornflakes box, fried human bones. That's when it clicked. The dinner Jose was eating when they arrived. It wasn't regular food. It was fried human flesh, garnished with lemon. There was a frying pan on the stove, too. More cooked flesh, fat. He was arrested on the spot.
And that confirms the horrific moniker, the Cannibal Poet. Cannibalism in these contexts, it's almost never about hunger. It's the ultimate expression of power, of domination, symbolically consuming the victim. It could be seen as like literally internalizing them, possessing them completely. Maybe for him, after feeling things were always taken from him, this was a grotesque way to take in, to reclaim control. It's a complete shattering of human boundaries. Profoundly disturbed.
When the police questioned him, Jose tried to spin a story. He claimed Alejandra's death was an accident. Said he choked her to death in an argument. He absolutely denied eating her. Claimed he was cutting her up to feed the cooked meat to stray dogs bit by bit to get rid of the body. But the forensics didn't lie. She'd been strangled. With the sneaker shoelace they found on the floor, the marks were clear. It wasn't accidental choking. It was murder. And more evidence piled up. In his apartment, they found a manuscript he was working on. The title, Cannibal Instincts. The cover had a picture of Hannibal Lecter, but he'd altered it to look like himself. It just completely contradicted his denials, showed his twisted obsession.
That manuscript, it's practically a confession in itself. It shows zero remorse, just this intense grandiosity. He's not just doing these things, he's writing about them, fantasizing, identifying with fictional cannibals. It suggests his dark fantasies and reality had merged. He wanted recognition even for this horror.
After his arrest, the police started connecting him to other cold cases. 2 unsolved murders popped up. First, Veronica Casarrubia, murdered back in 2004. She'd been beheaded, her body and head dumped separately in cardboard boxes. Turns out, Jose and Veronica had been dating. He denied it, but the signs pointed right at him. The second victim was a sex worker known as La Jarocha. Her dismembered body was found in a suitcase not far from Jose's apartment. And tragically, cases involving sex workers, they often don't get the same attention. They can remain unsolved for longer. They're seen as easier targets.
It fits a pattern, sadly. Escalation. Targeting people he saw as vulnerable, women he was involved with, then a sex worker. It suggests he was seeking victims he thought he could easily control, silence, exploit. The dismemberment keeps appearing, that need for absolute control, dehumanization.
Jose tried to shift the blame, of course. He accused a man he was romantically involved with, Juan Carlos Perez, of killing Veronica. But Juan Carlos told police, yes, they were involved, but Jose killed Veronica. Juan Carlos said he knew about it but didn't do anything because he was deep in his own drug addiction at the time. Investigators developed a theory that Jose specifically targeted single mothers. He saw them as vulnerable, looking for love, maybe struggling financially. Easier to manipulate, easier to control. It fed his own twisted needs, stemming from his own abandonment issues.
It's a chillingly strategic predator profile, identifying a group that might be more susceptible to charm or manipulation because they're seeking stability, maybe companionship. It mirrors his own needs, but in this awful predatory way, calculated targeting.
In jail, Jose refused to enter a plea. Wouldn't say guilty, wouldn't say not guilty. His defense team argued he was high, not in his right mind when he killed Alejandra. They actually said, quote, he didn't eat her, he just cut her body up, end quote. Just a bizarre attempt to minimize the absolute horror.
That statement really shows the distorted reality, trying to compartmentalize, deny the worst part while admitting to something still horrific. It's a total lack of empathy, no grasp of the moral weight, pure self-preservation, manipulating the narrative, even with overwhelming evidence, just chilling.
But the trial never concluded. In 2007, before he could be convicted, Jose was found dead in his prison cell, hanged by a belt. Initially, it looked like suicide, but things didn't quite add up. He hadn't seemed suicidal. Reports said he was actually excited about writing a new book about himself, the title, The Cannibal Poet, which is strange given how strongly he denied the cannibalism part. So questions started. How did he get a belt in maximum security? He was supposedly under close watch because other inmates had threatened him, often kept alone. Then an examination of his body revealed signs of torture and rape before he was hanged. This led many to believe he was murdered by other inmates. There was an investigation into the prison, but it didn't lead to any clear answers, just unresolved questions.
And that ending, whether suicide or murder, it leaves so much unresolved. For the families of his victims, and police think there could have been up to 10, his death means no trial, no public accountability, no definitive answers. There's no real closure, just this void of uncertainty. It raises serious questions about justice, especially when the perpetrator dies before facing the consequences fully.
And maybe the final grim confirmation. That last manuscript they found after his death. In it, he depicted himself eating his victim, finally admitting, on paper at least, what he denied so vehemently in life. So the story of José Luis Calva Zepeda, the Cannibal Poet, it's a journey into utter depravity, fueled by trauma, addiction, this incredibly twisted ego. It's a stark reminder of the horrors that can hide just beneath the surface, sometimes for years before exploding. And the question that hangs in the air is, how many other dark secrets died with him in that cell? What does that mystery tell us about finding justice for the most vulnerable? We hope this story is giving you something to think about, as grim as it is. If you found this narrative captivating, please do like, share, and subscribe to our channel, Horror Docs. We appreciate your support. We'll be back soon with another story from the dark side. Thanks for listening.